Okay, Wikki, your first slide, which you just sent me, will come on as soon as the slide moves to the next one. Welcome, everybody. And thanks very much, Wikki, for being with us all the way from Thailand and spending this time.
Hi.
The unusual part about Wikki is she herself is a second-generation sailor. Her parents, her husband's parents, they all sail. So this is actually a third-generation family that's sailing. So she has the experience of being a sailor child, as well as Wikki, you have this.
What?
Just a minute. Yeah.
You see me or not? Okay.
Both a sailor child as well as a sailor parent, an extremely successful sailor parent. Vika, her son, has done extremely well at the IOTA Asians and is, probably now gunning for the gold in the Worlds. So, Wikki, can you just take on from here? The slide's yours, and I will go on to mute and help you whenever you require. Thanks very much, Wikki, once again.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys can hear me well. So let me begin. So actually, anyone can actually come in and ask me questions later on after we finish maybe what we wanted to talk about today. Okay. So let's begin with what I have on the slide. So we will be talking about parenting competitive sailors. I know that not 100% of you or everyone, parents in India would like their child to go competitively, sailing competitively, but at least, enjoy sailing as a sport. So let me begin my slide. If you, can you move the slides?
Wikki, you become you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, again? Okay.
Yeah. Don't touch anything. Now start. Yeah, you can start now.
Okay, start. So let me begin with the first picture I want to show everyone here. If you can see it, that you only praise the people who are actually on a podium. However, a lot of people, actually, a lot of hard work has gone into why they are on a podium in the first place. And even though this is like a pyramid kind of scheme here in all sports, really, and sailing is no different. So to be a competitive sailors, you do have to put in a lot of hard work, and especially in a young generation or in the young kids, the parents have to put in extra hard work to get the kids up there. However, there are enjoyments that come along with what you can achieve together. And even if you don't gain the podium finishes, you can still enjoy the sport very, very much. Okay, so let me begin the slide, the presentation. So if you go to the first slide. Okay, parenting the competitive sailors. I'm not sure what happened on the screen there, but I hope you can actually read it, because on my phone might not be working so well. But there are not many competitive sailors around in our region, in Thailand, as well as India, I suppose. But there are elite sailors, and most of those, if you look at their background, is either they're living right on the sea or their parents are sailors. And that's one point I want to get across, is that it doesn't have to be that way. Our parents started without the parents sailing, so it's all about family enjoyment as well. I mean, if your family, the whole family, get into supporting the sport and the child, then you can actually enjoy the sport together and gain more from it. So if we go to the next slide. So what I mean by family sport, so Wekha is my son who has started sailing competitively when he was 9. He started sailing optimist when he was 8. And if you look back into the presentation poster, you can see that he actually been around boats since birth. So because we all as sailing family really born both sides. My husband is also the sailor, and he also competed competitively when he was younger. And so this is our group who we travel together. We have a family from Myanmar, a family from Hong Kong, and us from Thailand. So we would go to regattas together as a family, where my husband and their fathers would be on board the rib. So we don't really have professional coaches coaching as per se, but more like the father to son coaching. And I do the support on shore, basically. So it's a family kind of sport enjoyment. So the sailor themselves enjoy much more when parents are around. So even though in a lot of way, you guys are probably dropping off your kids and go sailing. It's a great sport. They're out there doing thinking on their own, etc., etc. But it is nice to have parents right on shore or nearby, or talk about the race, or talk about the events that have just been done, even talk about the practice itself, really. So if you look to the right picture here, is basically at our club. So we were testing out the 29er, and luckily we have the 2 kids who are trying to qualify for Olympics to come and help the Wekha and his friend. And so not only the kids on to look at the boat, but also the parents. So we have the coach's father, the Wekha's father, and also his crew's father. They all getting involved, and parents' involvement within sailing sport is very, very important. So I'm a big believer in making sure that your kids get everything right before get on the water. So there will become a time when they know more than you, and yes, you step back, but you can also still help looking for any missed or anything they might like to change, or for example, their sail tides are not good or something like that. But at the beginning, for sure, I mean, if you learn how to sail yourself, you can help them look for mistakes, because adults do get details much, much more than kids. And when their equipment do not fail, when they get on the water, they're happier. So I'm a great believer in having parents around at practice to help looking at the sails and the boat itself. So, and then, if they're not in pain, if they're not, everything goes well as planned, then they enjoy the sport more, basically. So next slide, please. So if you're looking at this is at our last World Championship in IOTA World Championship in Antigua. You can see how many parents and supporters went with the kids. These are very, very common in Europe, not so much in our region, because I'm not sure, in a way, sailing is kind of new to Asia. And then also, I mean, as a recreational sport, of course. But in other part of the world, the parents really have to do all the work. In Asia, we rely so much on clubs and on our government organization to help us. But in Europe and other part of the world, they actually have to do it all on their own. So they have to find their own coaches. They have to drive around. So therefore, they very get involved, and they also enjoy watching, because after a while you being involved so much, you enjoy watching the sport. And these are people who are sitting there watching team racing, which is to go on a whole day, And this is, I think they're waiting for the final to start, which is Thailand against Italy. But like I said, it can be a watching sport as well. So you just need a good strong binoculars, and then you can actually enjoy watching the sport. Okay, so next slide. So get deeper into our topic. So what we will talk about really is, first of all, we had to identify at this moment what type of sailor is your child. Of course, that your child can be different type as they go on. From the beginning, our family, we just make sure that sailing is sailing for life. It never was sailing to be a champion, or sailing as a fitness or anything like that. For us, sailing is sailing for life. We want our children, we only have one, Wikki, to really enjoy sailing and make sure he in the sport in for life. So first of all, you have to really look what type of sailor your child is going to be, or wanting to be, or change the stage when they change. So looking back from the experience, right? How did it all started, right? Different people have different tracks of how it all started. But how it started, as a child, if you are around water a lot more, then you started with ease, because they are not scared of water. The sea is a big place, so if they see it a lot, then they'll get used to it more. Secondly, mostly they never make a decision on their own to start sailing. 99% of time, kids start sailing because their parents bring them, or school bring them. No matter how, no kids really would walk past the sailing club and walk in and ask to start sailing, because it looks difficult. The equipment is big, everything is set. So once you get started, your child's likely to want to be a recreational sailor more than anything. They want to be able to sail. They want to learn they want to get out there and enjoy the sun, enjoy the friends. It's no competition will come in there at all, in that track, until they really get confident on their boat. Therefore, it's a really good idea you don't change boat all the time, because then the sailor will never get confident on any boat. So if you stick to one boat long enough, the sailor will get very confident on it. And then that's the time when you see if the track has changed and they want to go competitively, and they want to go sailing, racing, and so on. So looking back to Wikki, how he started was that we all sailors. My parents are sailor. Bird's parents are sailor. My husband, Bird, and my husband's a sailor competitively and non-competitively, and I'm a sailor too, competitively in national level, as well as later on I did a lot of cruising class. So Wikki's always been on board the boat, but he never really enjoyed sailing by himself until he's about 9. So at first, when we first started, we can never teach him to sail, because as parents, it's harder to teach your child. So it's better to send him to the club with the proper coaching. That way, you learn faster and listen to the coach more, I think. So when we first started, he actually don't like sailing by himself. He would cry if the wind picks up, and he knows everything because from his experience with us on board, he would be able to tell like it's 5 knots, 6 knots, 10 knots. So anything more than 5 knots is too much for him, basically. But we sent him in to be coached by this really great coach, national coach before, Somkiat, and he then able to bring Wikki and out of his shell and started sailing. It was never a competitive sailing experience, but then he started seeing other people racing, and that's how he got into racing. And that's really hooked him so much because he's into racing a lot. So in the second point I want to make is that when you are competition or not competition, you want to keep them sailing as well. So being a parent, it's very important. If you're not a sailor already, you should learn how to sail. It's just because that once you learn how to sail, you can talk to your child more. And you have to ask yourself, have you sailed as a recreational sailor? Is this what you want? Or you want to, even yourself, want to sail competitively? Even though you never sailed before, you should always ask those two questions when you started sailing as well. Because as an adult, sail competitively have different level. You have a club level and you also have like a national level. And for us parents, we are still a sailor. We sail non-competitive most of the time, but at times we do get into our club racing. And then you have to talk about, are you enjoying the sport? Because if you tell yourself that you're not enjoying it, your child will have a hard time enjoying it. It's just because that even if you're not a sailor, do you enjoy being around the sea? Because a lot of us Asian, a lot of parents do not want to get into the sun. Therefore, they said they hated the area near the sea too. Therefore, undermining your positive thinking about having your child as a sailor. So first of you have to be a sailor parent is something in the mindset of your own. So if you're not a sailor, you should try sailing. If you have not tried racing, try 1 or 2 times club level. If you not enjoying it, try enjoying it. That's how you get started to be a sailor parent. And I think it's a unique experience to be a sailor parent, because no parents would really drag themselves to sit around and being in the sun the whole time and enjoy it. But all of us, try our best. So now, keeping them sailing competitively. So there are a lot of level competitions. So you don't have to really go forward and say, I want to be a national team. I want to be, world champions. You have to start from the beginning. At first you said, I want to win my club level first. If you want to be in competition, club level is a good start. Once you are comfortable in your club level, then you move on to a regional level, your country, your nationals and stuff like that. And even if you are not a national sailor, you can still go internationally. Well, for us, it's not as difficult because we can actually drive down or go down to Langkawi or Singapore, and it's not so expensive for us. In your country, it might be a little bit harder with the bigger, your region is a lot bigger than us. So internationally as well, it's every time you go international sailing, you learn something more, because different regions have different wind pattern and water pattern. So clinic and coaching is another way to get your kids enjoying the competitiveness, because you have to give them the edge. If you don't give them the edge, they don't feel comfortable going into competition, because they don't think that they know more than anyone. And if by giving them the edge, we're really putting some knife, into going into a war, right? So some attacking better. And in fact, it's nothing to do with other people. It's to do with yourself. A child who have an edge on more, if they think they have more knowledge, even though they don't, they probably have the same as everyone else. But even if they think they just came back from a clinic, from special coaching, or from someone who have a lot of experience telling them what to do, then they feel that they actually know more and they're more confident going into the competition. And then lastly is sailor for life. This is very, very important. In our sport, we don't get a lot of people staying in the sport, especially when they around the time they go to university. So they tend to be off the sport. most of the time. So if they actually give sailing for life as a objective, is they come back to it, and it would keep everyone enjoying sailing is very important to, and hopefully they'll pass it on to their kids later on. And that's more important to our sport than anything, is make sure they actually enjoy sailing and continue sailing for a long time. So next slides, please. So let me get back to I hope that people who are listening are mostly optimistic parents or youth parents, because this is where it all started. For us, we started with Optimist because it's the most economical sport. I mean, both part of boats. The boats are cheapest all around to maintain. To buy one, secondhand is availability is good. Sales sales last long, and mass inspire also. The weight of each equipment your kids will last in it longer. So therefore, Optimist is a good economical boat to get into, especially if you are not a sailor before. It looks stable too, so you feel more safe having your child out there sailing. So in Optimist, so what we have is two things: competitions. So in Optimist is it's fun recreationally when you first started only, because Optimist is something that you gain more fun if you compete, because the kids will get more friendship, because no Optimist competition is less than 20 boats. Therefore, you get a lot of friends, and that's what makes sailing enjoyable for a lot of kids, is friends, especially girls. Girls like to have friends around. So in competitions, you started off with club level. This club level, you should never allow your kids to go racing beyond club level in your own group until they're really winning that club level. It just, or in a top 10 basically, because then they feel more comfortable going out. Because there's no point of going to the national level and you come last place. It's no fun. No kids enjoy that. But I know there will be a last place, but at least show some ups and downs in racing. I'm talking about different individual race, not the whole regatta, of course. If there's some individual race that they did well, then they enjoy it more. So club level is very important basis to all sailing competitively. And you should always keep them happy in the club level. If they enjoy coming to the club, they enjoy sailing, because kids, they're more attached to the actual location than actual boat. So next level is the national level. So in national level, you're in your country, I hope there is competitions. In Thailand, we would have at least about 4 national level competitions. In our club level, we also have 2 tiers. We have club members only level, where we only have kids in our own club. And second tier is we invite others to come and join in our local competition. And then national level, our club only will do, we have two competition, Admiral Cup and Eastern Seaboard. That's when we invite overseas people too. So that's national level. And then you have international level. International level in Optimist, you have what we call regattas. And that is we in ourselves as should, I don't know about other parents, but we ourselves will look at it and divide them up into bronze, silver, and gold. Why is that? Is that in bronze, when you go out international regattas, you want to do well. You don't want to go out there because you're coming from overseas. You don't want to go out there and come, last, or being at the back of the fleet. So you started off with bronze, or if you're a top level sailor, you probably started with silver. because it's always very different outside your country. It's much harder to gain success. So bronze and silver is to start building confidence, and then later on you go to gold level. These are the regattas in Europe mostly for us, because Europeans have many regattas and many sailors. In those regattas there are gold, where all the top sailors go to prepare themselves for IOTA events. And then IOTA events is more elite. These regattas anyone can go, but in IOTA events is where only national team selections will get to go. So this one, in IOTA events you have continental, which is different continental. We can join any continental event except Europeans if we want to make the world team. So you either want world or Europeans. And to us, the steps will be going overseas is to train in gold level fleet and then go on to continental and world. You always have to prepare your kids along the route. So Wekha started on a bronze level events in a junior fleet. So he was cadet, so which is a junior fleet, under 12. Now they changed it to be under 11 or under 10, basically. And then after that, you go on to silver level when he started a big fleet. When you start entering the bigger fleet of seniors, you want to start at silver level to make sure that he's in the top 10 or top 15, to make sure that he likes to compete. And then this past year in 2019, because we know that he's going to make the continental team and the world team, we start him to practice on gold fleet. So gold regatta level, that to prepare himself when he goes to world and continental. I mean, at world and continental level, you might not aim for, you might aim just to gold fleet and so on and stuff, because at world is a different, I mean, top 5 from each country comes. So to be able to be in a top 10 or top 20 is really, you have to be like 100% peak at that time too. So now we look at training for those regattas. So in training, you have a training where you have a club level training. These should be your basis. You can always fall back on. You always have to be able to go sailing anytime you want. You don't have to, wait for anyone to tell you it's time to practice, because this club level practice is something that you can always go every weekend. And, Thai kids, they go every day after school. It's just like swimming. And that's why they're so good. My son don't get that chance. So what we have to do for him is that we would do weekends, so Saturday, Sunday, and then on the weekday we would do one or 2 days a week coming after school to Pattaya from Bangkok. So we would get him in 4:30 until 6:30. Basically, that's in the summer. At least 4 times a day he gets to sails, and then we supplement that with clinics. Clinics is something that you go and learn new tactics so that you can bring back to your own practice. Clinics is mostly done by a special coach there, and these coaches are very, very technical. So unless you are at the confident level that you're going to go to your next step of regattas, which is like bronze to silver to gold, then you don't really go to clinics until you really run dries on your drills, basically. After clinics, then you have been selected. Then that's when you train with the national team. This is mostly because you get most of the knowledge from your club level, your clinics already. At national level, these are sparring. Sparring is basically having someone who as good train with you, so you can tell the difference of what you need to practice or what skills don't you have. And that's what national level does, really. It will not teach you the basic, because the basic should have been done in the club level and clinics already. So these are for optimists is the level you go on. And I would say you also have a bunch of recreational kids who will never go on competitions in optimists because one, they grow too fast. Kids who grow too fast, then think about this. Every 10 centimeter you grow, you have to change your tax. So therefore, kids who are growing too fast in the spurs, growing years and so on and stuff, it's very hard to get into the top elite fleet because they change. You have to keep changing their boat handling skills all the time. So a lot of kids in our club do not go competitively in Optimist. They would later on do it. So Optimist is something you can choose between never go to competition at all or go sometime at club level, or full on. If your kids really into racing, go full on and try to drive them to the national level. But even before they get to national level, you can also enjoy the international regattas to get them more comfortable racing overseas as well. As we always take a holiday around regattas as well. And that way we kind of do both things, one for the child and one for us as well, enjoying the holiday together. So let me say what we do in the next slide. So as a supporting parents, right, you have to enjoy the sport together, of course. The sport itself cannot be enjoyed if your child is doing it on your own. So we as a parent take it on our own, in our own hands to really make YAI going out there and do the sport. We are not in the position to go with the federation until he's made the elite team, of course. Therefore, we always have, first step is do it on your own. So first of all, you have to ask your child first. You want to go for competition. You want to go for recreational, go back to the same slide before, or you just want to sail at the club level, competitively, but not so competitive, not so much, basically. What we do is that YAI have really set his goal. He wants to do school as a basis, but for him, school is to make sure it passes, basically, and sailing is something he really enjoy. And I mean, it's a time of your life where you can actually do that, because as a young child, if you not give them the opportunity to take their goal to the fullest, then you already set a frame to their life. So for us, it's like by allowing him to take only the basic of schooling, we can set higher goals for him. He can set higher goals for himself in the sport that he wants, and that also teaches you to make sure you go for opportunity, and that's what we wanted. So when he first said to us that he really likes sailing and really want to do more competitions, so we sit down together and he set out his goals. So I don't have the example now, but in the first year he wrote down all the competition regattas within our countries, and he would say what he wants to get. So he would he would write down top 10 in a junior fleet, top 20 in the overall fleet, and so on. And then that as the year go by, and now in our third year, in the second year, he starts saying, I want to come first in the junior fleet and they be in a top 5 on the senior fleet, for example. And now this year, it's always like, because he's now only in the senior fleet, he would only say podium finishes. So that's for internal competition. And then you would set, when we'll plan together for the whole year, where do you want to go? If you want to make the national team to go to World Championship, then you have to try the place a year before. So they usually set up a regattas a year before, so you can test the water and so on. So if next year you plan to make the world team, this year you would already been going to GADA, even though that it didn't happen. But that's the example, basically. So setting goals is very important. So there's no point of just go to any competition without goals. Kids should already have it in their mind, but they're being kids, they would not tell or write it down. So they can do it in secret. They can write it down in secret, but make sure they have it. Make sure they know that they have their goals, why they're going into each competitions, right? To make sure they go into the competition and be confident, your equipment have to be good for what competition it is. So for Wikki, he is only 35 kg. Therefore, we have to get equipment that is right for his weight. The optimized weight for Optimist is around 43. Most of the equipment, especially shattering equipments, are all 43 based weight. So therefore, you have, if your child is heavier, you have to make sure you get better stuff than 43. So you have to find a high, stiffer mask, stiffer boom, bigger sails, for example. Even our club level, we would buy equipments based on 40 kg because that's what the cheapest and most available. But then if you want your child to do well in competition, you have to fit them with the good equipment to make sure that they are confident in when they go in. And the third thing is financial. We do it on our own because we're lucky to be able to do it. However, if you are not, then you should also set goal base on your within your financial level. And I mean, there are many different level of competitions in different financial situation. So, and I mean, clubs and national level probably give some funding and stuff. If you find a way, there always good chances that your child will get more competition out of it. So next is go with the federation. Once the thing is that each country have their own politics, and to be fair, you have to learn to live with it. You can go on your own, but you won't make the national team. You have to make sure you trusting the system that they will do a fair selection, and there's no point of getting into their politics. So you just like, okay, if they're going to have selection in June, then you train towards June. So you have to trusting the system that they will have a fair selection, and you just go for it. And that's all you need to care about. You don't need to be worried about what behind the scenes. So that's just a waste of time. Extra training before going into competition with the federation or selection is something very important. So I mean, if you're really into the sport competition level, you may miss the school. For example, for sure, like for my son, he studied international school. He have to miss school because most of the competitions and training and clinics and extra trainings by federation is based on school holiday within the country. So the Thai kids can do it. Therefore, we have to sacrifice the school time for extra training if we want to make the team. But that's what we have to do. Our school, international school especially, are much more flexible. So they're able to give us online from the beginning to support this ventures since 2 years ago. So we're really lucky that we have the school support. But we did have to go forward with So let me finish up with it has to be clear before you go into national level is the objectives of the sport itself. So you make sure that your kids know really well why they're training towards a national level. It's not because you want to get to the national team and that's it. For us, Wikki wants to get to the national team so he can get that world title. So don't go in with just make a national team, basically. So you have to make a big picture of the objectives with your child as well. So let's get into conclusions. After all this, I just want to say that I think our time is running short. So we want to make sure that you understand that sailing is about friendship and fun. So you want to get your child to enjoy it as much as they can. It's not about competition only, but there are level of competitions to make them stay in the sport without competition would just be boring to any kids, and that's not true when they said, oh, my child doesn't want to do racing. It's not true, because every child wants to do some racing to at least make friends. So that's how they will stay in the sport longer, is to allow them to enjoy the level of competition that is right for them. So let's shall we go into next slides and then questions. So this is a photo from the parade of the World Championship. So you can see now, I mean, if you get a chance to go to that level, you would make so many friends from around the world, and that's more important than anything. So you have a list of questions for me?
Oh yeah, questions coming up. For those of you who don't know, Wikki is pretty much on the optimist circuit around the world. She's pretty much every sailor's favorite parent, I think, and everyone goes to her when they need help. So she started sailing at the age of 8, and she made it to the Thai team for the European Championships and the Asian Championships. She was also the laser radial national champion in Thailand. First question for you, Wikki, is can you just describe the finest moment you had as a parent?
To me, is the smiles he gets every time he come out of the water, not just in competition, but in every training. In fact, he always talk about what he learned today on water, and never without fail he would have something to talk about when he get on and off the water, once he get on and off.
We've lost your video, Wikki. So
okay, sorry, it's back.
Okay, right. So the smile is what you look forward to, and those are the finest moments. So that it's not just a moment. You yes. are happy pretty much every time he comes back from the sail. Can you describe one of the most difficult moments you've had as a parent?
The difficult moment is when with YAI is kind of different, because he's a self-motivator. He's a great child in terms of, like, he would fix his own problem. He would come out very disappointed, but within like half an hour he would be okay, because he set it up in his mind that what he did well. So positive thinking is something that he always has. So with a difficult moment is to give him that time, that space. He doesn't want to talk to anyone, really. He come out, he would be in the mood, but that helps with sailing, because you have time to clean up your boats and stuff like that, to clear out your mind as well. And for us, is that for him is the difficult moment is not be able to share that experience on why he doesn't do why he doesn't feel good about himself. But because he always do it himself, he cleared out himself. He already know what he has to do next time, basically.
This whole process of internalization, where he comes back to shore and fixes it himself, as you say, is it something that you trained him to do? Is it something that you and your husband have? Or is it something
yeah. I think he's better than any of us. He's the thing is, I think because we go into sailing very positively, because we never really push him towards anything. He pushes himself. Therefore, sailing is like I said, he go in as a sport for life, right? Sailing for life. Therefore, he is never fail or not fail. He always not happy with his performance along the way. Not so much the results. He never really disappointed with what he comes in at the end. He's disappointed that he didn't cover that well, he didn't start well, or he didn't do well along the way, rather than the result itself. So and we never really concentrate on the result either. So we always looking what improvement can you do or what would have you done differently if we come back and look at the video or track or something, if we have those, or when we're watching it, because they know he knows we're watching. He can always reflect the questions like, what do you think? Where should I start? That kind of thing. So it actually it's a process rather than who taught him really.
Sureka, can you tell Harish to please stop sharing the presentation?
Who?
Yes, yes, sir. It's done.
Okay. You were a sailor. In your time, your parents definitely helped you and taught you and served as guides and mentors to you. What have you learned from your parents, which you're implementing on your child as a generational transition? And the other thing is, what have you learned not to do as a consequence of being a child yourself, which you have improved and are implementing on Wake Up?
For me, my father is a sailor, so for me it was easy to get into sailing because we already have a sailing club. We don't have to make many choices for where Wake Up would sail or where he would start sailing, of course. So it's easier path for us. However, what have he done that I would actually, you know what? For me, everything seemed to be quite okay because I'm a recreational sailor. I'm only part-time competition. I don't do so much competition. I only make the team back in the days. Think about it, back in the 1980s, you don't really have much of the optimist team. So any good sailor basically get into a team because we don't have a lot of girl sailor, and then IOTA started to have that quota for girls as well. So it was easy for me. For my husband also, his father is a great sailor. My husband's father went to Olympics and also won Asian medals, Asian Games medal. So it was a different track altogether. They were really into competitions. And his father probably wanted him to do well. And by doing well, he also gets scholarship to university and so on. So it was a different tracks, but we both enjoy sailing. So we met each other in regattas. So it was good. So it was, what we don't want our son to be is to stop sailing, basically. We don't mind he stopped competition, but at least he come to the club and enjoy whatever class he would. And then that's the thing. My father never pushed me to sail on any boats, and we would never push Weka to sail on any boat. We would guide him on to what boats available, but we wouldn't be pushing. And that's what keep kids sailing, is that be able to sail anything really when they grow up.
What advice would you give sailors who cannot afford the sport? What solutions do you have in Thailand for sailors who cannot afford the sport?
For us, it's different. Our own club is different. We are a private club where we everyone's paid for the membership. However, in our federations or our association, they would have a clinic open for very, very cheap price. And once you get into the clinics, once if the kids want to continue sailing, they can apply to become one of the sailors. But then certain commitment have to be done. And for example, they have to sail at least 4 times, 5 times a week. It's almost like swimming, and the equipments are all free. So with other clubs around the country as well, it's run by sponsors. So we do have about 30, Optimist Association ourselves, Academy ourselves, we have boats in Phuket where we set up for them with 20-30 boats, and also in Prachuap, in Songkhla, in other part of the countries, the YRAT, Yacht Racing Association of Thailand, would give out all secondhand boats to those clubs as well. So they get equipment for free. And the coaches are normally local people who are willing to teach. So these are sport lovers really to get it going. So it's if you when you're in Thailand, you have those sports to start sailing. But if your parents are not into sailing and drop the kids off, those kids will not last in sailing. It's just because the parents are not getting involved at all. Yeah.
So somewhere in the middle, you mentioned something about making the sailor or the child feel that they've got the edge. Can you just explain that, how you make the child feel that they've got an edge?
I think extra training. So you have a club level training, right? And then you would be able, if you can get that special clinics or special coaching, even from YouTube and stuff, is it between you and your child, your parents finding it for you, or a book or something. So if they think that they actually have something going into competition with more knowledge, even the weather pattern, every time we go to a regatta, we would be talking to some local fishermen and ask them, how's the weather work? Because that's the edge the local have on us. But if the child knows that he knows just as well, then he have the edge, and he going into competition knowing that I also know, kind of thing.
How do you strike a balance between an academic career and a sailing career?
So for us, it's different because our Wicca school is international school, and they're very supportive of sports. When he makes a national team, he have to go training and so on, or they would actually put him online work. But I'm saying that at this level, your child's not going to be a doctor. You know what I mean? So there's no point of be pushing so hard academically and not enjoying the life of. And what sailing can give your child is the enjoyment of life. That teaches you how to think as well when you're out there, learning the environment. And one really important thing is to really learn how to set goals and how to reach that goals, how to work out competitions, objectives, and so on. And that's what school do not teach. The school teaches the curriculum of follow, right? You have to learn something that the teachers tell you. But in sailing, it's different. You actually have to learn from whatever available around you. So that's why.
Overparenting or helicopter parenting, and then you have this coaches sometimes overcoach. I mean, they kind of tend to not really wait for the child to pick up a couple of nuances on their own. Any thoughts on that in terms of overparenting or helicopter parenting, and any thoughts on overcoaching?
Well, there is no level of parenting is for right for anyone, because some child want to be overparenting. Some childs do not want parents around so much. But for one thing in sailing is that if you're not a sailor, you can't be overparenting, because you really don't know what sailing is all about until you really learn to sail and really know what the child's getting into. That's when you can start talking about sailing. And that's edged is also there for, if you look at the elite kids of sailors, a lot of them have parents sailors. It's just because they talk about sailing the whole time. And to get into that position, you do have to start at least 1 or 2 clinics of your own to learn how to sail. So you actually learn as well. And that way you can learn together with your child, opening up some YouTube and talk about sailing together. And those are kind of parenting in sailing that to get them good. And also over parenting, what is it? Protectiveness. You don't want to put your child into sailing if you want to be over protection, because your child is out there by themselves in the sea. And that's kind of also help with the help teaches parents who are overprotective as well, because you have to let your child go out there for 5 hours to train by themselves and so on. Regarding coaching, we don't know so much about this one because we are not a coach. However, my husband coaches Wikki himself in the void that we don't have the coaches available. So what he does is that he brings out what he knows. And he reads a lot on the internet and on the books, and he brings those to teach your child. So by saying over coaching, if being a father or a mother, you would know your child really well, and you would want to tell your club coach first that these are the level and my child wants to be. So the club coach also know how to push your child as well. But then that is the decision of the child will make. And a good coach is when they make that decision together, instead of having a parent tell them exactly what to do. But to start it off with, the child of 8 years old, 9 years old, they wouldn't know really what level they want to be. They just want to go out, enjoy sailing. That's why you have to introduce them slowly to racing and see if they like it or not.
How would you shield your child from politics, inter-coach, between a parent and coach, and other politics within the inter-parent politics and the federation politics?
With Wikki, we don't, the thing is with us, we are so much on our own in a lot of competitions. We only involved with the association in level of national level if you make the team. Before that or in between that is all on our own, right? So with Wikki, he doesn't really get involved. Once he's in a team, he's in a team. With us, we know exactly what we wanted. When Wikki's in a team, we want to make sure he train enough to make sure that he's not a burden to that team as well. And I know that with his timetable of school, as well as other things, he cannot be in where the training is, because their training is 3 hours from Bangkok. We can't come every day like other child. So we have to work with the coach early enough to say that we're only going to be there in the weekends, for example. So if you open and straight off talk about this, then it's clear on everyone's mind on where you want to be. So with politics, we can get around it by being very clear to each other. If your child is good enough to be in a team, they know that what you have done beforehand is good enough to make a competition, right? So therefore it can be worked out between the coaches and the national coach and us on what to do and so on. Optimist is not because we're not involved or around those areas so much, so we don't really get to see those parents that really into this and that, because also where we're not into using the club boats or the boats that belong to the federation, we always get our own, so we don't have the issue of why my child getting older boats and while he getting better boats and stuff. But in sailing, you have to know that the better sailors get better equipment in federation. But that's very fair, because they wouldn't get there to be a good sailor in the first place. Everybody start from the beginning. Everybody start from the older stuff anyway, until your child get good. And then everybody have different level of talents. If you want to be involved in that from the beginning, then you get to federation and ask your child to be part of their program. But for us, it's different. We at the club level, we enjoy on our own, and then we go send him there for selection only. So.
Thanks very much, Wikki. That was a lovely presentation, and I'm sure lots of the parents would have learned a lot from your experiences, and hope to meet you at many regattas. For the record, it's important that everybody knows that her son, Wikki, little fellow, the Indian team, when we went to Oman, we met him there, and he performed brilliantly. He came second at the IODA Asians, and then after that, he also won the Asian championships. He was second at the Asian championships in Thailand. So, and first at team racing. So fantastic performance by Wikki, and I'm sure many more performances like that to come. Thanks, Wikki.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Hope to see you as soon as possible, as soon as COVID lifts up. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys. For those who are still around, day after tomorrow, we're going to have a sports psychologist talk to us. And and her name is Mugda, and she will be coming on Mugda Barave, and she'll be coming on at 10 o'clock on